Hello and welcome to another An Old Man Watches. And today we're going to be talking about three movies, or three versions of the same movie, if you like. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the 1962 Soviet film Plenty de Bourre and its two English language adaptations from 1965 and 68. So Plenty de Bourre, which I'm probably mispronouncing because I don't speak Russian, is a 1962 Soviet film about the first manned mission to Venus. So the crew, who are all Soviet cosmonauts, of course, because it's a Soviet film, land on the planet and they discover that it is a semi-volcanic lost world type environment filled with strange plants and dinosaur-like beasts. They and their robot assistants experience many dangers in their exploration of the planet before blasting off back to their ship. And the last thing that they kind of discover just before they leave is that the planet either had or has intelligent life, and that's kind of like the big discovery, if you like, of the trip. So that's the original film. We're going to talk here now much more about the two adaptations because I haven't seen the original. I'm relying on a bit of research to know that it's very similar to the 1965 adaptation Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet, with a picture there. What Corman did for his 1965 adaptation was basically reshoot the mission control scenes from where the cosmonauts are talking to home base with Western actors, and obviously he dubbed everything into English for the rest of the movie, but the mission control scenes he reshot with Western actors. The more notable of the two being Basil Rathbone, who was famous for playing Sherlock Holmes, though a long time before this. I suspect by this stage he probably wasn't very expensive because Corman did not like to spend money, basically. The second adaptation, which came a few years later, 1968 instead of 65, was Voyage to the Planet of Prehistoric Women, which much more significantly revised the story to feature a cabal of telepathic Venusian women. But we'll get a bit more into the differences and what those differences mean as we go through. But the first thing I wanted to talk about in terms of these films is dialogue. And I've called this "Stop Talking" because a major problem with the first adaptation of the film, and therefore presumably the original Plenty de Bourre, because to the best of my understanding they have basically exactly the same plot, is that there is a lot of exposition delivered by dialogue. So much dialogue that is telling you, stuff about the mission and stuff about what is actually happening right on screen right then. Even in the middle of action sequences, we get lots of dialogue about where characters are basically explaining the action scene that they're in. It's like certain comic books, and this happened a lot in comic books of the era as well, but just in general in comic books, where they draw a panel with a character dodging a laser beam, and then they'd have that character with a thought bubble saying, "I have to dodge that laser beam." Like, you're a visual medium. Just show us what's happening. You don't need to have characters give us a play-by-play. Obviously closed caption narrative for viewers with vision impairment is a good thing, but you don't have your characters in the movie explaining what's happening in the movie. You should be able to show us that, not tell us. Secondly, and this comes down to a difference between the movie, motive matters. So a big narrative weakness of the original script and the 1965 adaptation is that things happen for no other reason than that they happen. And I don't mean the cosmonauts being on Venus to begin with. I mean, they've got a reason to be there. They're there to explore. It's for scientific research. But all the dangers that they face once they're on Venus are just random environmental factors. Oh, we've happened to have driven into an area where there is lava. Oh, a carnivorous plant is attacking us. There's no motivation to any of these action sequences. They just happen because they happen because they happen. We're in a dangerous environment and dangerous things are occurring. There's no motivation to the action. The second adaptation creates the Venusian cabal, who are actively trying to drive away what they see as invaders, intruders into their domain. These Earthlings have invaded and they need to be driven away. And so, because there is a purpose and a motive behind the attacks on the Earthling characters, those attacks become more interesting, more engaging. The film is more entertaining, simply because what is happening has a reason to it. So it makes it amazing what a difference it makes that exactly the same sequence can be more fun because it's got a reason behind it, a purpose to it. And I've called this Corman Got a Corman, giving motivation to the attacks by introducing controlling intelligence, thumbs up, good idea. Making that intelligence a bunch of attractive blonde women in seashell bikinis, well, it's definitely a Roger Corman type of decision. He's never been afraid to chase the cheap buck. He's all about getting butts in seats. Always has been, will be until the day he finally stops making movies. And I think he's in his 80s or 90s now, so he may well have reached that point. It may also have been a factor in that decision that between 1965, when the first adaptation was released, and 1968, when this adaptation was released, film censorship in the US had relaxed to some extent. 1968 was the year that the current MPAA system was introduced, which is more relaxed than the production code which preceded it. So Corman had more opportunity to use titillation in his films, and as we will see when we get to some of his 1970s output, that was certainly an opportunity that he fully exploited in the coming decade. So that's Planeta Burr and its two English language adaptations. None of them is going to be a classic movie, but if you're going to see any of them, see Voyage to the Planet of Prehistoric Women. It's still pretty much PG in terms of what is actually in it, but it's a better movie because things that are happening have a reason, basically. Next time, we're going to talk about something I consider a really good movie, and that is the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers. We'll be talking about why this is a good film and why, I think that. So that's next time. Hope you enjoyed this one, and catch you for the next video.